In a quiet village nestled in the folds of Eastern Europe, there stands an old, forgotten bus, once vibrant with color and purpose, now blanketed with rust and silence. It's a relic of a different time, a witness to a bygone era. This bus, long buried under layers of dust and memories, was once the pride of a kind-hearted lady who sold vegetables and fruits during the communist period. She used it not just as a vehicle, but as a lifeline to reach distant markets, neighbors in need, and customers who grew fond of her cheerful presence and generous heart. In 1985, for reasons lost to time, she parked the bus in this very spot. Perhaps it was mechanical failure. Perhaps it was a sign of the times changing, markets shifting, rules hardening, fuel becoming scarce, or simply old age. Whatever the reason, the bus never moved again. Year after year, season after season, it stood alone, as vines crept up its wheels and time etched its story into the metal shell. But time does not erase memories, it only buries them, waiting for someone curious enough to unearth them. That someone happened to be me. As a lifelong fan of restoration projects and stories that connect the past to the present, I couldn't resist when I first stumbled upon this sleeping giant. Its cracked windows, moss-covered roof, and fading paint were like pages in a forgotten book waiting to be read again. So, I reached out to the original owner, the same lady who had once filled the bus with baskets of apples, tomatoes, and greens. Despite her age, her voice held warmth and a tinge of nostalgia as she agreed to let me try to bring it back to life. And so began an adventure unlike any other, a journey not just through metal and mechanics, but through history, memories, and the spirit of resilience. We began the process by inspecting the bus from every angle. The tires were completely flat, sunken into the earth as if trying to return to the soil. The paint had peeled in long, sad strips, and the windows bore the hazy scars of time. Inside, the seats were brittle, the fabric eaten by moisture and mildew. But beneath all that decay, the frame was solid. The structure held on with the quiet dignity of something built to last, even if forgotten. Opening the engine compartment was like lifting a time capsule. A family of mice had made their home inside, their nest tangled in wires and leaves. We gently cleared the space, careful not to destroy the little ecosystem that had developed over the years. The engine was coated in grime and rust, the belts cracked, and the oil long gone to sludge. But the components were all there. It was complete, and that alone gave us hope. The first step was cleaning. Every surface, every bolt, every panel needed to be wiped, brushed, and treated. We spent hours scrubbing the floors, airing out the cabin, and carefully cleaning the dashboard. The steering wheel, once covered in a fine layer of dust, revealed a beautiful old emblem beneath. That small detail reminded us that this was more than a vehicle, it was a symbol of an era, a vessel of stories and community. Next, we addressed the fuel system. 40 years is a long time for any engine to sit idle. The tank was drained, cleaned thoroughly, and inspected for corrosion. We replaced the fuel lines, fitted a new filter, and added fresh gasoline. Then we turned to the battery, replacing the old unit with a new one. The ignition system, distributor cap, spark plugs, all were examined and swapped as needed. With the engine now clean and reassembled, the moment of truth loomed ahead. But before we could attempt to start, we had to check for potential dangers. A compression test revealed acceptable levels in most cylinders, a miracle considering the decades of stillness. The oil system was flushed, refilled, and we primed the fuel pump. Every wire was double-checked. Everything was ready. Cameras rolling, hearts racing, we turned the key. At first, nothing. Silence. Only the click of the starter relay echoed through the frame. We tried again. This time, a small cough, like the engine was waking from a long dream. On the third try, with a puff of smoke and a deep rumble, the engine roared to life. The sound was indescribable, not smooth or perfect, but powerful in its own rugged way. A roar that defied the rust and the odds. A sound that hadn't echoed through the valley in 4 decades. Everyone around cheered. The old lady, watching from a nearby bench with tears in her eyes, smiled quietly. Her bus was alive again. But that wasn't the end. With the engine running, we needed to test the transmission, the brakes, the lights, and the steering. Each system had its quirks. The brakes were frozen, the cables rusted. We replaced the pads, bled the lines, and slowly brought them back to function. The steering needed lubrication and minor adjustments. The headlights, miraculously, still worked with just a few bulb replacements. Finally, the bus was ready for its first movement in 40 years. We gently shifted into first gear and released the clutch. With a small lurch, it moved. Just a few feet at first, but then more. Slowly, cautiously, the bus rolled forward, its tires turning like gears in a forgotten machine. The neighbors came out to watch, many of whom remembered seeing it drive through town in the 80s. Children ran alongside it, laughing. Elders nodded in approval. It was a moment of magic. We took it down the street, not far, just enough to feel the wind against the frame, the sound of the engine echoing off the buildings. The lady who owned it was invited inside once again. As she sat in the front seat, gripping the wheel with wrinkled hands, she closed her eyes and whispered, "I never thought I'd sit here again." It was more than a drive. It was a return. This restoration was not about building something flashy or valuable. It was about honoring history, reviving something that once served its community with pride. The bus may never drive long distances again, but it doesn't have to. It has already fulfilled its purpose, reminding us all of resilience, of kindness, of time's quiet patience, and of the power of giving forgotten things a second chance. In the days that followed, we added small touches to make it feel alive again. The interior was repainted. The old signage from her vegetable roots was restored and hung up inside. A few of her original crates and baskets were cleaned and placed in the back, now decorative but rich in symbolism. We even planted a small herb garden near the old bus stop it used to frequent, lettuce, parsley, basil. A tribute to what once was. The bus now sits as a community landmark, not just as a piece of machinery, but as a testament to a generation that persevered. People visit it not just to marvel at its restoration but to hear its story. To imagine a lady driving it through foggy mornings in quiet town squares, bringing fruits, smiles, and warmth to those who waited. If this story teaches us anything, it's that some things are never truly lost. They're simply waiting for the right moment, the right hands, and the right hearts to bring them back to life. Watch the full video to see the step-by-step transformation, the moments of suspense, the emotions, and that triumphant engine start that no one expected. Like, comment, and subscribe to support more stories like this, because every old machine has a tale to tell, and we're just getting started.